And I'm speaking, of course, about the situation with the DPP that has now become, how should I put this, something of political fodder. Because what should have been a question of governance is now turned into a bacchanal. The opposition, of course, is weighing in, but they're secondary or they're perpendicular to the discussion. Right now, the Prime Minister, well, he had some responses to the DPP's claims, which were quite defensive, and now the DPP is reported to be looking to seek legal counsel to determine how he will respond to that, which, I mean, really and truly, the fact that it has to evolve to this point is not necessarily a good sign because, again, what is the point? Similar to the human trafficking situation. It's not about who wins the fight. It's about the fact that we have a serious law and order breakdown. And is this getting us closer to a resolution? I would say absolutely not.
You know, to me, it's interesting that it's taken this twist and this turn because the news of the understaffing at the DPP, well, I suppose is not news, but the Prime Minister's response is typical, to say the least. He's taken statements made by the office of the DPP as personal attacks upon himself and on a political platform that is not necessarily one that speaks on the part of the government, but more so of the political party that is in charge of governing Trans-Tobago, and it is two separate deals. He's chosen to more or less verbally attack the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. So he is actually more or less going after each attorney that falls under that particular office. Then he's gotten his puppeteer well, not his puppeteer, he's the puppeteer. He's gotten his puppet in the Attorney General to now summon a meeting to give an explanation as to why it is these issues are happening when the building has been provided, which is ridiculous. Yep. You know, you're choosing to respond to something that wasn't even raised. Mm-hmm.
But not just that, the timing of it.
Right, and the Attorney General has also supported the Prime Minister's comments because, again, they've not addressed the core of the issue. They've deliberately maneuvered their way around this issue. The Director of Public Prosecution spoke directly on his understaffing, saying that he has less than 50% of the required staff to actually function effectively and efficiently. But what does the Prime Minister choose to do? He chooses to take those comments and turn it into the fact that we've spent close to $45 million across 3 years for a building on Park Street. We've even outfitted it due to the security concerns expressed by the DPP. And you mean to tell me that he hasn't moved in as yet?
I mean, because let's remember, not too long ago, the Office of the Attorney General, there was vandalism on one of the windows. I'm not entirely sure what it was. I think it was said to be a gunshot, if I remember correctly. So it's not as though those security concerns are unfounded. But here's the thing, the Prime Minister could have had a point. But based on what's reported, I have to connect the dots, right, to see where the point actually, you know, makes sense with regards to what he says and how that's connected as a defense. How is that connected to what the AG says? Because if he took the stance of, I'm going to explain the situation and my concerns, and he was a bit more patient with his speech, then I think it would have come across a lot better, saying, well, I understand that the DPP's office is understaffed, but since they have not relocated to the larger offices, I would assume that Park Street would be larger. We were told that where they're residing is not large enough. Since they have not moved to the larger offices, perhaps that could be why, or what is the holdup that they have not moved to have the space in order to utilize. But he didn't necessarily explain it. He to some extent, based on what's reported, he threw certain comments out there. And yes, once you kind of just throw the amount of money that we spent on this and I get it. Technically, to some extent, it is about the money, but you have to do a better job explaining it. Otherwise, it leaves us in this situation where
it's rather stupid. Because
it sounds very stupid.
It doesn't sound stupid. It is stupid. You know, and I did try to be as polite as possible and respectful as possible, but sometimes you run out of words when trying to adequately describe the situation that is unfolding here in TNT for years. You know, but the Prime Minister chooses to make these comments. His timing not only was off, but he completely missed the point. Rachel Moore says the issue of a lack of resources impacted all of Trinidad and Tobago's institutions and is not limited to the office of the DPP. So it's not deliberately starved of resources, and it's an unsatisfactory explanation for the underperformance of the DPP. Well,
that's nonsense.
Exactly. It's absolutely nonsensical that the Attorney General chooses to make that statement. Furthermore, this is where I get very much frustrated, because you see, if you take a look at this meeting that took place last week, Thursday night, and for a matter of fact, for many political meetings, not only something that is confined to a People's National Movement political meeting, but many times across the board, see people laughing, joking, making fun, having a good time. And to me, these are things that need to be a serious discussion. Yes, you'll have moods when you want to lighten it, but the Prime Minister is making these statements, and everybody's clapping, everybody's laughing, as though, listen, are you all that blind? Are we as a people that ignorant? Because $45 million across 3 years, why wasn't this addressed earlier? In fact, when Kamala Prasad-Bisesa moved into government, this is when the office on Park Street was actually agreed upon once certain security concerns were addressed. So this is something that's happening since the People's Partnership government with respect to that particular office. So it's more than $45 million over 3 years, if my calculations based off the timeline is correct. The issue is, why is it that the Prime Minister is now choosing to raise this issue? Why didn't he address it before? You know, as the head of the National Security Council, you don't have any remit of the judiciary. But the issue is you're now choosing to attack the judiciary when you, as Prime Minister, has actually not only, we've not only lost $45 million because you chose not to act sooner, but you've also, as Prime Minister, in my opinion, deliberately ignored an issue that has been plaguing TNT's offices for years.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that the $45 million is lost. It's just what it was spent on hasn't been utilized. The asset is technically still there, but from what we understand, it's not used. So it's dead money right now.
It's lost. You're paying $45 million in rent and you're not using the building. It's lost.
Oh, well, rent. Yeah, okay, right? Sure, right. So, but the thing is, the timing, that's why you're absolutely correct. The Prime Minister has a point in the sense, if he addressed the situation, because we're not talking about, oh, there was a pothole here and a pothole there, right? One could even say that the Minister of Works and Transport could use this excuse much more effectively with regards to the state of all the roads in TNT than when it comes to the criminal justice system. Because this is a major issue for the entire country for how long now? And on top of that, you bungled the transition or the reappointment of a commissioner of police in spectacular fashion. Now it comes to the fact that we have other issues besides the police, but you seem to have been very happy to keep a lid on that and not talk about that, not make an issue about that. Because you're right, the Prime Minister should have known. As the head of the National Security Council, he should be asking, why is crime fighting ineffective? Where are the bottlenecks? Not just people on television like Ethan and I. So he should have been asking those questions a lot sooner. He should have come to the point where, okay, why is the TPP office understaffed based off of staffing levels, which I think are not even recent. I could be wrong about that. But why is that going on? How is it affecting the ability to prosecute criminal matters and the criminal justice system on a whole? And what should we do to address it? And the Attorney General coming out to say, well, that is not an excuse because other parts of the national budget is underfinanced because we have a lack of resources. First of all, the Minister of Finance did go on his high horse about a $1 billion surplus. Let's just remember that, right? So, AG, your words and his words don't line up. I wonder why. Second of all, if you want to do crime fighting on a budget, please just let us know so that we will know how to appropriately judge the levels of ineptitude.
I think for me overall, it's just, again, it's shameful because here in TNT, I don't know how it is we're thinking in terms of where we appropriate funds, because the expenditures is where taxpayers are losing out on money. Where money is just falling into things. It seems as though we don't know, we don't understand the value of money. And at the end of the day, who are the individuals that are suffering? It's the man on the street. It's the victims and the families of these victims. Who are the ones that are benefiting from a system like this? The thing is, you cannot look at me and say that in a nation that has 500 plus murders, and I think it was over 600 last year, right? In a nation that is suffering from so much murders on a daily basis, on an annual basis, that you have 45 attorneys as prosecutors to handle all these cases. And then when it is that you have a case that has actually an individual has been charged in the year 2012, but the case is only being heard next year, 2024. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely nonsensical. So as far as I've taken it, the Prime Minister has now distanced himself from blame. He's chosen to verbally attack the office of the DPP, and the Attorney General has now taken that position as well. I'm just wondering, knowing how attorneys operate, if Reginald Moore was not in the position of the Attorney General, and he was practicing as a private attorney, whether or not he would have agreed and his statements would have been the same.
With his own statements.
Because just remember, Reginald Moore really is a poor politician.
I could connect some dots with what the Prime Minister said and try to make it sound better in my mind. But the AG, he should know better. With regards to, but you're right, maybe this is the thing, he's not a politician, so he's stepping into political hot water and he has no clue. Babe in the woods doesn't know what he's doing. But moving on slightly, staying on the same topic, because some attorneys have spoken out, one in particular, former prosecutor, State Counsel Renuka Rambajan, was reported to say, well, she had some very pointed things to say. You do not have the support of the Chief Personnel Officer, and really all these people. There's really a lack of understanding of the role of a prosecutor and the importance of a prosecutor in the criminal justice system. Everybody's speaking about the failure of the system. They're strengthening all the stakeholders except the prosecutorial arm of the state. And these words are more or less going back to what you were pointing out. Shouldn't they have known what the problem is? And they're not addressing it. So we have, more than one prosecutor, I believe, or one prosecutor, former prosecutor, speaking out to the frustration of the system. And this is, from what I understand, with regards to people in public service, this is the norm. Where somebody goes to the public service, they see problems, they want to try to fix it, and then, well, I'm making some assumptions here on the person. The frustration just leads you to leave. The frustration just gets to you, and you either just stay and collect a check like a drone with no initiative, you just do what you're told, or you leave.
Now, I actually read the stories, and you know, it's not surprising again what came out. It's only confirmation. I mean, we welcomed Janelle John Bates on this program last week Friday, yes. and she only confirmed certain things for us. With respect to what Mr. Renuka Rambajan was expressing, and it's a very valid point. She says, you know, I spent 11 years in the office of the DPP. I didn't want to leave. I left with a heavy heart, but I was frustrated out of this. You know, it's really, I think it was Miss Santa Cruz who calls it on the program and says it's a mandate to frustrate.
Yeah.
And this is only being confirmed to be absolutely true. She says, I left with a heavy heart, and the issue is if I had stayed there, I would have actually been in the role of deputy director now. But what you have is that you have no training programs, and you have junior attorneys with little experience actually now being elevated to senior positions within the office of the DPP. There are many factors for that as well. There is a management factor, but there's also the part where we don't have the money to make the packages attractive for the level of work for these attorneys in these positions. Well, in other words, we can't hire them. But that was just one. So the thing is, you have inexperienced attorneys actually in these high positions because they cannot afford the more senior attorneys. And that ties back into another issue. when it is you have to actually hire foreign prosecutors to come to Trinidad and they walk away with $1 million packages at the end of the day, it frustrates and it surely demotivates all other attorneys working within the office of the DPP. You had another attorney, Lee Mary, who worked in the office of the DPP for 3 years. He says, and I quote, according to this newspaper article who interviewed Mr. Mary, he says, the more pertinent question is, why has this been allowed to happen? The only plausible answer is that for those who hold the purse strings, the fair and timely prosecution of criminals is not a priority. A calculation has been made that the rights of defendants and victims do not bring the masses to the ballot box.
The thing is, you see that not a priority? I just would like to know, because the Minister of National Security, he said there's a special court for human trafficking cases soon. That's cool. Is it that we're going to take some judges that already exist and just divide the criminal justice system to some extent? Or are we going to try to add? Because if we're trying to add, well...
We're not going to add. According to the Minister of National Security, already judges have been identified who will hold positions within that court.
Well, then I would just like to know exactly how is that going to necessarily help the overall situation? Because it's the same system that has the same bottlenecks anyway, right? We could have a special court, but now we'll have special needs for special prosecutors potentially to have certain background training, etc., etc. But when we're getting junior lawyers that might not necessarily have the life experience to deal with these sensitive cases, what are we going to do?
I would have preferred the suggestion put forward by quite a few individuals that you have night courts. I don't need another specialized court here in TNT. We already have a children's court, we have a family court, we have the criminal court. I don't need another specialized court. Human trafficking could fall under the remit of the criminal court. And as far as I'm concerned, if you had night courts, given the level of crime and criminality here in Trinidad and Tobago, that would have been addressed. So again, to me, it's a waste of money. And again, it's just to me, it's a form of trying to say, look, we're creating solutions. All you're doing once more is stretching resources unnecessarily.
My opinion on that is you'll still be stretching the personnel that pre-exists if you don't have a proper plan. And it comes back to that. We could try to put as many band-aids as we want in the situation, but when you just don't have enough prosecutors who are full-time prosecutors that are able to build up the experience, and that we have senior prosecutors in-house and we don't have to hire people on the outside for extraordinary amounts of money. And think about it, in the private sector, this is what happens. When you don't have the expertise in-house that you're supposed to have, and you have to use outside contractors that cost more, usually that's a sign of poor management. And at the end of the day, government is about managing. It's not about grandstanding. It's not about directing. Management is not about telling the DBB, hey, go after this one. Any fool with a hat could just, give simple instructions like that. But it's about setting up your systems of governance to properly run. Not just give silly instructions from on high, hey, do this, do that. Yeah, you could patch a single hole that way, but you can't run a whole country that way trying to patch every single hole yourself. And you don't even seem to have the concern or the capacity to patch this one, this glaringly obvious one.
Sean, this is a patch.
That's not even a patch.
No, you're saying that we're going to create a specialized court for human trafficking. To me, that's just a patch. I'm going to come out and speak about this issue and say this is what we're going to do. Again, it's not addressing the fundamental issues, and it is further stretching the resources that are already scarce. And if you are not seeing, this is the thing, you can have the best employees, you can have all the experts. If you don't see about them, and if you don't look after them, then we're going to end up in a mess. And quite frankly, that's what we're in right now.
Folks, we're out of time. Just the last story that we wanted to touch on, well, just to mention, the Minister of Health, he says there's no exodus of nurses. As far as I am aware, it could just be a play on semantics. I do believe the Minister of Finance was already called out over the weekend for semantics. We don't have a crisis of forex. We just have a shortage. Well, we might have an exodus of nurses leaving, But we might have a shortage soon.
Listen.
It's not already.
I don't know where Terence D. Singh is living. I don't know exactly what work he's doing in the Ministry of Health. But I've spoken to nurses my age. My age. They said, we're out of here. There's nothing here in TNT for us. We're getting opportunities abroad. We're out of here. So I don't know if it is that he's saying that there's no exodus of nurses simply because of the word exodus being used in his statement. You know, I'm just wondering if that is where he's trying to be politically correct. But again, where are you living? And with respect to foreign exchange, Starbucks is popping up everywhere. Starbucks is popping up everywhere. Do you know that the napkins and straws from Starbucks are imported?
I did.
They're very, very basic. They're popping up almost everywhere.
I did not know, and I wish you didn't tell me.
And I'm just wondering. I wonder if I need to get some foreign exchange in order to go abroad to do studies or to get something done. Whether or not those running Starbucks are willing to actually lend me, because I can't get any from the bank.
Just wait. The ability for Forex to do studies abroad might be slowly drying up because then they will say, hey, you go abroad and you'll stay abroad, and what's the benefit to us? Well, what's the benefit to get to? You didn't set that up. Just to say, Ministry of Health with regards to nurses, they also are in a situation where there's a mandate to frustrate. But we have to take a break. When we come back, we're gonna switch things up a little bit here this morning and debate a wider issue that stems from what we've spoken about so far. Stay tuned, this is Talking Point on WSN, your content capital.
We discuss gestational diabetes, a form of diabetes which develops in pregnant women. This medical condition can affect both the fetus and mother, but can be managed to ensure that you have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby.
From the first trimester, there's an increased risk of miscarriages, an increased risk of fetal abnormalities. So these are congenital. The baby could be born with an abnormality.
What's up, Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN. Content Capital.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship Mac Beam. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you do in Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the right and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us. Now, following one of the statements put forward by Lee Mary over his position as to the current state of affairs in TNT, what he said, and again, I quote from him, I repeat myself, the more pertinent question is, why has this been allowed to happen? The only plausible answer is that for those who hold the purse strings, the fair and timely prosecution of criminals is not a priority. A calculation has been made that the rights of defendants and victims do not bring the masses to the ballot box. End quote. Now, that led Sean and I to a debate this morning, and the question that we're asking is whether or not this system is deliberately designed this way, and that the issues affecting the criminal courts here in TNT, or by large the judicial system, is simply ignored because of the fears that it might have on the economic and social structures here in TNT. How do I break that down in a more simple form? If the government was to simply actually do their job in terms of tackling crime and criminality, it is going to affect people to the extent that there are those who live a life of crime because they see it as more beneficial. They don't have to work an 8 to 4 or a 9 to 5 job. They're making money, doing their things on their own time, and whether or not they die at the age of 35, they get the thrill for 35 years, I suppose. To me, the government actually goes after crime. It leaves a big gap where you're going to have a number of people unemployed. You're going to have a lot of people within cells, which is going to cost the state a lot of money. Then you might have more families on social expenditures and receiving benefits from the state, while the government is not able to create employment for these people. Therefore, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to just leave them that way because right now we simply cannot afford any other alternative. My theory is it's deliberately done because of the economic and social impacts it will have, and as suggested by Lee Mary, that it's going to affect any government or any political party when the ballot boxes are opened. Sean, what is your position on this particular topic?
Well, and here's the thing, I think I could go a step beyond that. Now, granted, not all criminals are violent. You're going to have the white-collar crime. You're even going to have some gangsters who they themselves are not directly violent. You're going to have parts of corruption, etc. So all of that potentially. And then, of course, the thing that we have not seen was since what? Since 99, 98? Drug lords, the big players, and the potential large amounts of money being laundered into the economy. You've brought this up off air with me over the last couple of years with regards to that criminal part of the economy that is potentially propping up our economy. And if we go after that, what does that mean? We don't know how large it is, how much illegal money flows through the country and then now goes and is injected into the economy. So all of that, not just the jobs potentially, but the actual activity that the illegal money helps generate. We don't know how large it is. We don't know what the impact would be. But then let's go a step further. And I was also thinking with regards to the economic reality of the situation. It goes back to the AG's defense, which I don't think is a defense in that case, but it's a point with regards to the fact that if they spend money on the DPP's office, that money has to come from somewhere. And one would think, let's just take corruption out of it, because the cynics would say, well, just take all the money they thief in and put it in DPP's office, it'll be fine. Right, let's take that out of it. All things being equal, you will probably have to cut government spending somewhere else in order to put it there. However, that might not be as popular because I might have to cut stuff like grants or feeding programs or something that I could use to help with voters. Spending money on infrastructure projects and more importantly on things like CPEP and so on, that gets me votes. Spending money on food cards and stuff like that, that gets me votes. Spending money on more prosecutors is not necessarily going to get me votes because in the short run, a lot of people are not, it's going to fly under everybody's radar unless it's a situation where it's highly critical, when the situation has reached the point where it's such a big problem and we could feel the consequences, and then you fix it, and then all the voters will appreciate it. But when you don't have an idea about what the consequences really could be, you're not really going to pay attention to it. But what you will pay attention to is, are you fixing my roads? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? So part of it too is the economy of, well, we don't want to have to spend money here. We want to spend money on these things that will get us elected in the next election.
Well, we're not spending money on that anyway. But go to a comment put forward by Reginald Moore. He says, I can see no political benefit to the government deliberately undersourcing the DPP. Really?
No. The irony is, he is right, Keaton.
Well, hold on, let me finish. Because I think, Reginald Moore, you need to put on your glasses or at least clean it. What do you mean there's no political benefit to the government deliberately undersourcing the DPP? First off, sir, publicly that may not be the case for you, but is it negatively impacting you and your government from a public's perspective? Maybe a lot of people are frustrated, but at the end of the day, if we can wave our flag, jump and be happy, that's to the extent that we are as a nation. Let's be honest with you. But it is benefiting the government deliberately. Because if it is that we cannot tackle white-collar crime or white-collar criminals, then who is to say that any sort of corruption or any sort of corruption allegations or any sort of charges that stem from corruption will actually be heard in a timely manner and those individuals will see their day in jail?
Well, I actually think it's reversed. I think on the surface he's right. If people fully understand the situation, right, he's right in the sense of, if I, as a politician, say I'm actively underfunding the DPP's office, right, in the middle of a big crime wave or rise in crime, and the murder rate is the highest it's ever been since, well, the last time it's been high, which is not that too long ago. It's steadily growing year after year after year. COVID was just the blip, the interruption in the middle. He's right in the sense that, yeah, politically speaking, that might be political suicide to do that and declare that, etc., etc. First of all, it's not been talked about really to this extent before now. But one could argue that if it's not intentional, we need a better excuse as to why the office has been understaffed.
You've just flipped your entire response. He says you agree with him, but then you go on to use the word if. If it is people truly understood, then I can see where he's right. You yourself just responded to it. People do not fully understand this situation. And furthermore, you're right when saying it is only now being spoken about. What does that tell you? It means for years there are possibilities exist that any government who has under-resourced the office of the DPP has benefited politically.
The key point is, what Reginald Moore said, I don't think he understood how right he is. He thinks because this statement is potentially true, that means that the government didn't do it. No. What I'm saying is, my boy, you ain't realize your statement is true. That doesn't mean the government didn't do it. You just don't understand the level of political, depravity that we've reached. And now, would it be different under the other political party? This is one area where now it says, I don't know. I don't know how they would have responded. I don't necessarily want to make this big of a jump on an assumption. I don't necessarily have faith that our political leadership would be better. But what I do know is this current party has been in power for 7 years and was more than content with regards to other problems, not just this one, right? So, as much as we're focusing on the DPP, this could be applied to a whole host of other things. But with regards to other problems, they were more or less happy to let sleeping dogs lie until it came up into the national discussion and you couldn't avoid it. And this is par for the course from what we've seen from politicians from the other side as well. With regards to, that's more or less what happened to the ferry service. It devolved between the People's Partnership into the transition of the PNM. The ferry, inter-island ferry, was getting worse and worse with regards to its maintenance and reliability until it completely collapsed about 6 months into the PNM's tenure. And those who took the ferry understood the problem much better than it seemed either political party. So we've seen where problems fester, and they fester because in that case they cut maintenance budget, they went with somebody cheaper. We've seen where problems grow because you're trying to cut corners, and then you don't want to really talk about it until somebody does something where it's unavoidable and all of a sudden you get very defensive and you want to, pass the blame onto anybody else. When it suits you, you want to say, oh, well, the buck stops here and I am ultimately responsible. So I want to take all the credit when things go right, but pass out all of the blame when something goes wrong.
The talker versus the thinker versus the executioner. You have the Prime Minister, who is the talker. You have the Attorney General, who's the thinker, right? And I know even in that sense, it's actually praising him where praises is very minimal. But who's going to be the executioner? While the Prime Minister could talk, he's actually not getting anything done. Whilst the Attorney General could talk, he himself has not gotten anything done. I think Karen has pointed out that he actually did hire some staff for the office of the DPP. But the DPP's office is still under 50% of the required staff. So kudos to actually getting some individuals in. That could be just 2 people, but then again, if you hired individuals, well done. Who's going to be the one to actually clean up the system and get it done? We have seen no government that is actually capable of cleaning up the judicial system. We've seen no government that has taken crime and criminality seriously. In fact, I think it was the Minister in the Office of the Attorney General who herself had a faux pas last week Thursday, and she says, this government continues to support crime and criminality. I think she had a faux pas, and she said that on the political platform last week Thursday, and I was just saying, like,
was it?
What a mistake to make.
Was it a mistake? Was it? I'm just asking. I'm not saying it wasn't a mistake. I'm just asking.
I would assume so, because if it was not a mistake, then I suppose we've met for the first time.
There's no political benefit for making that statement, right?
I suppose we've met for the first time an honest politician. But again, government after government, system remains the same. It's not stagnated. It's breaking down. It has broken down. And Trinidad and Tobago is not going to get better. Because if you are trying to, put it this way, the DPP says, listen, you know what, we're 50% not functioning, so we're 50% brain dead. But then the Prime Minister tries to go off and speak about the lungs or the heart instead. Listen, you could try and look after almost every single thing. If you do not directly treat an ailment, what's going to happen? You're going to end up dead. And quite frankly, that's the road TNT is heading down. So pardon me if I'm full of doom and gloom, but I love my country very much. It's one of the reasons why I'm still here. It's one of the reasons why I have not migrated. I love Trinidad and Tobago so much that sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself and realize, listen, this ain't working out. It's time that we look elsewhere and for something else.
It's hard not to think it's intentional. And more often than not, I will run into people who will basically say, this was intentional, that was intentional, and I don't want to believe it. Because I ascribe to don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. Of course, some people might not like that because, yes, I essentially am saying they're incompetent. But it's hard because at the end of the day, no matter what the DPP has done or has not done, if you're serious about crime and you're the government, and when it was the meritless fiasco, you wanted to say, no, I am the head of the National Security Council. Of course, I can interact with the Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, and the Commissioner, etc., because I have that authority under my role as the head of the National Security Council. Okay, you're the head of the National Security Council. You're serious about crime. It doesn't matter what the DPP did do. Why didn't you speak about this before and do something about this before? Therein ultimately lies the question.
Anyway, listen. Does it seem deliberate? I cannot blame anyone if they have that opinion that it seems deliberate. It does come across as though it is deliberate. Is it actually deliberate? Well, for the sake of me not wanting to receive a legal letter or a lawsuit, I will simply say, you can keep your opinion, and perhaps we may share the same opinion, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's up to you and how you view it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on Talking Points. And when we return, we'll welcome our guest this morning. Stay tuned.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
But if we died with Christ, we have faith that we will also live with him. We know that Christ has been raised from the dead, and he will never die again. Death no longer has power over him. He died to sin once and for all with his death, but he lives for God with his life. Join WESN as we explore the death and resurrection of Christ with He is Risen, a perspective from bearing leaders within the Christian faith. He is Risen, starting March 27th, only on WESN, the content capital. Well, we're shifting focus a bit from the topics that we discussed and debated this morning, and though we're sticking with crime and criminality, it's more so from the lens of the classroom. We all know that we're advocating for changes to be made all around, and we always say it starts within the home, and well, we would hope it starts within the classroom as well. Literally quite starts in the classroom, ends up in the corridor, then onto the road, and then into a police station. What do I mean? Well, welcome Acting ASP Ashraf Ali as we discuss another day, another school fight. Acting ASP, welcome to the program.
Good morning, gentlemen. And ironically, we're still in the month of International Women's Day. And when you look at the type of school violence we have, the reality is there's a lot of young ladies, young adult, young females that were involved in the most recent fight that was circulating on social media. It's something that we have to look at, is that in what are we teaching our children in schools? I'm not blaming the school system per se, but what are we teaching our children? I want the public to understand something, that we have been talking about, children talking about respect. Or, sorry, the terminology they use right now, you disrespect me. But you cannot disrespect somebody if you don't know how to show respect.
Exactly.
And these young people have no clue what the word respect mean, but they only talking, they constantly talking about disrespect.
This is the thing. Young people view respect as you kissing up to me. Young people don't understand that respect is in. At the end of the day, I can respect you as a human being. I can see you another individual. I will always be courteous. But I think young people, put it this way, the general term is values. They are not being taught values, they do not understand values. I think the school system, to a certain extent, has blame. But I also believe that the household has blame. And at the end of the day, the police are being called to schools to now break up fights. One incident took place, I think, 2 weeks ago at a secondary school where the police had to be called to break up a fight. I cannot understand for the life of me, why is it getting to this extent? It seems as though now the opportunity to be filmed and the opportunity to be shown across that this is what I can do, this is what I'm capable of doing. You know, and the level of language and just the level of anger that is being spewed. You know, I'm sorry to say this, but your job as a police officer is not going to get any easier, because if these individuals grow up with that same attitude, then you can only, unfortunately, expect no good to come out of them.
Yeah, I want to ask, because I've heard, I'm not too sure how true this is, but is it that for some of them it's literally to become infamous or on social media, to say, hey, our school better than the next school because look at what we could do, look how willing we are to fight?
Well, there's a lot of factors to consider. Those are one of the things, the social media likes. People go up for the likes. Right? These youths love the social media platform and what likes. So when they see themselves in these activities and people get likes and they stroke their egos and say, you know, you did this and you did that, and you are bad this and you are bad that. They stroke their egos in the wrong context, because it's no longer about, you know, you did well in school, you know, you are a good child, you know, come from. And then we have we had challenges now from the homes. Now, the level of violence and the level of anger, I wouldn't say violence, but the level of anger exhibited by these children in these schools, it means that they are very angry. They are angry internally. And we have to understand what causes these youth these days to be so angry. Angry for everything. Angry for everything, almost everything they are angered about. What causes it? We have problems in the homes, because there is in fact single parents home who we have parents who have children, don't know about parenting, never had that avenue, that opportunity to parent. They are parenting children who have no level of respect for anybody. Speaking to them is like, how could you tell somebody to do the right thing when you yourself don't know what is the right thing to do?
Two things from that. First, you said to stroke their ego when they see the responses. And going back to the talk about feel disrespected, to me, that actually, to some extent, isn't that almost like the beginning of criminal behavior, where your ego is stroked not because you achieve something, but because, hey, look how you beat down this person or won this fight, right? Because they disrespected you, so you handled them. And then, well, that's one aspect. To me, it sounded like, you know, this is how you could get people caught up in life. They're enamored by it. With regards to the anger, the lack of opportunities, I don't know if perhaps they're seeing society already, or there's something has happened to them, and it's setting them behind. And the only way how they know to respond is to lash out.
Well, just to add to his first question, is there a concern that the influence of gang behavior and gang activity is spilling into the classrooms?
Well, I wouldn't say, I want to put it as gang behavior. I would want, because when you look at it, behavior, negative behavior overall, because it may not be, I'm not looking at the gang behavior, but when I look at a negative behavior, the discipline and a lack of discipline from the home all the way into the school, onto the streets. So there's no consequences for their actions. And that is where we are at this point in time.
Well, one could argue the gangs don't face consequences. To rephrase this question, is it that this behavior could almost feed into or encourage? Because either the gangs could play to, well, look, you seem like somebody who is respected, so come and join us because we're respected and you want to continue along this path. Or, back to the angle you were talking about, something is going wrong in your life, we'll help you fix it.
And these are avenues that gang life and they portray to fill the gaps where society feel. So criminal elements look for opportunities to fill the gaps where parents, the school, and society feel to take the responsibility up. These criminal elements give you a false sense of hope and bring you into the system and coax you into the system. Once you're in the system, that's it. It's difficult to come out. So we have children now that the police has been called to treat with them in the school environment. From the last week in Northern Division, they arrested some young men in possession of marijuana in the school. Right? They were put before the courts. We have not a choice. We put them before the children courts. They also arrested some children on the streets that had some disturbance, and when searched, they had weapons on them.
But this is why I use the term gang-like behavior, because if you come from a home, I'm not saying this is every single student, but if you come from a home in which, for the most part, my family, our daily living, our life, even by how we earn money comes from that source of activity, it's really the only thing I know.
Exactly.
So my next obvious question would be, it seems as though it's very easy to solve these issues. It seems as though we make it difficult. But if it is we have to actually try and resolve these issues in part, focusing on the child and the child within the classroom, what would you advise that teachers do or other students do in trying to actually deal with a situation like this?
You see, I don't wanna say that, speak on how the school should function, because we all know the reality of what is taking place in the schools. In that we have angry children coupled with angry parents. In that last situation we had in the school, we would have sent out and we would have advised the divisions that the incident took place through our community policing and through our interaction with the school and the parents of the children. We would have advised those parents not to take any sort of actions on their own, because we have angry parents who watching this video on social media, seeing that my child is being physically abused.
Yeah.
Right? And it has a psychological effect on the child. And parents would want to react in a particular manner. So we have been advising those parents not to take the law in their own hands. The police will interject. Police will try their best to sort out and mitigate the situation. But this is the fallout that we have when we have situations where we have school violence or incidents in schools. We don't only have the children to deal with. We have the parents who are also angered at the situation and wants to take action. So it's difficult for us treating with an environment, because remember, the police are not in the schools 24/7. We are not the school. We are only there to react when a situation takes place.
Acting SP, some I've heard arguments put forward by those that the day that we ended corporal punishment in TNT, it had some impact. I've heard other arguments suggest that corporal punishment is not the answer. In fact, it can negatively impact upon a child. So moving corporal punishment out of it, because it's a conversation we could have, it's not going to happen. Do you think that in order to instill some form of discipline, and perhaps also try and relieve these children of anger and stress, because let's face it, a student's life is very much stressful. Do we need some sort of to probably sub our physical education period for some form of auxiliary military training?
There is value. There is value in some of it, because they might have the level of discipline is there. So there is value in any opportunity where you can put some level of discipline in the school environment. Now, the challenge you're facing here is that the discipline might just be for that period in the school. Mm-hmm. If your environment is counterproductive to the discipline, then we are just spinning up in mud. So this is a all-hands approach, all-deck approach, because we have to have inter-collaboration with other ministries to continue the type of education and the interaction and the involvement with both law enforcement and non-law enforcement agencies to get this type of change coming forward. Now, we may have to make the hard decision, and we are making some hard decisions right now, depending on the situation, in that we'll have to send some children to the children court. The consequences of those actions will be dealt with at the court level, because these children need to understand that your actions have consequences, not that you are going to get a tap on your wrist and allowed to go, because that will now, as they grow older, you realize what is the challenge we're facing right now, where we have a number of criminals just committing acts, going before the court, come back out and keep on doing the cycle. So we have to break the cycle, and breaking the cycle means we have to make some very hard decisions at this point in time.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think with kids, the problem is, like you said, once you get in the system, it's hard to get out. And if we want to prevent that, well, once the police has to intervene, that's more or less it, is too late.
Saying once you get into the system is if you get into the system, because sending a child to the children's court, they may not understand the magnitude of that.
However, it is very important to understand sending them to the court is not, they go through probationary period, they get some level of anger management treatment, and the probationary period, they see that consequence of putting them or setting them straight, I would say, is what they may need.
But acting SP, I mean, we have to go for news, but think about this as well. If I have, as a child, okay, probationary period, we have to understand the magnitude if you go before the children's court, discipline. If I have no hope for my life, I know that I don't know what's going to happen when I leave high school. I don't know how I'm going to live. I don't know if I'm going to have an income. I don't know what I'm going to do. My safety net might be my family, and my family is part of criminal activity or part of a gang. So if it is at the end of the day, I could be appearing before the court. Fine, fair enough, as a children's court. That's not going to change anything. I have no hope. I have no hope. So, I mean,
and sadly, it's
a reality, sir.
Big challenge.
It's a challenge for the police. It's a challenge for society. We have to break for news on the hour now, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, we'll open up the phone lines.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Teen and motorcyclist dies in Tobago accidents. Opposition MP calls for fairness in reporting. Police seek assistance in identifying body found in Tobago. And internationally, 8 die after both capsizes near San Diego. Now for the details. A Tobago teen is dead following a late-night accident. That is Aaron Hills of Rockley Vale, Tobago. He was a former student of Bishop's High School and an employee of Cuscutter's Supermarket. He died on the spot following an accident outside Bliss Restaurant and Lounge in Scarborough, Tobago on Sunday, shortly before 2 a.m. Meanwhile, a motorcyclist also died in an accident in Tobago. Reports say on Saturday, Stefano Dash was riding his motorcycle in the Studley Park area when he swerved to avoid hitting a child and collided with a stray animal along the roadway. He died on the spot. Opposition MP Barry Padarath is calling for fairness across the board to be meted out to politicians. He also called for human interest groups to speak out against the wrongs of the government.
One and Phil Roger, who had some expressions about Dr. Rowley's work ethic and called him lazy and added some adjectives to that. I received a tongue lashing from the Trinidad Guardian. The hypocrisy and double standards of the Trinidad Guardian and others in this country. And Dr. Munira was right to call out the Trinidad and Tobago Transparency International. Today we are asking, where are persons like Wayne Kublau and Kurt Wade from fixing TNT? Has TNT been fixed? Where are these organizations and these persons? Where is the editorial from the Trinidad Guardian calling on Dr. Rowley to watch your mouth?
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is seeking the assistance of the public in positively identifying a male body which was discovered at Golden Grove Road, Buku, Tobago, around 10:45 a.m. last Wednesday. The unidentified male is of East Indian descent with short black hair, brown in complexion, of slim build, and approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall. The body was clad in a red t-shirt and a pair of black long pants and had several tattoos about the upper portion of the body. Anyone with information is asked to call the nearest police station. In international news now, at least 8 people have died after 2 boats capsized off the California coast, emergency services have said. A search began after the boats got in trouble off Blacks Beach, San Diego. A 911 caller told emergency services she had been on a boat with 8 people that made it to shore, but another vessel carrying 8 to 10 people had capsized. San Diego lifeguard chief James Gartland called it one of the state's worst maritime smuggling tragedies. Well, that was your News of the Hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to Talking Point. Thank you very much, Mr. Denise Martin, for news on the hour. Folks, acting ASP Ashraf Ali is still with us this morning, and well, I say still with us, forgive me, he's always with us actually until the phone calls break. It's just a month. I haven't seen this gentleman for a month, you know, so good to see you. It was that long actually. The last time I saw the acting ASP was, I think, the week before Carnival celebrations. So the Monday prior to Carnival celebrations. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's open up the phone lines now and give you, the viewer, the opportunity to call in and join us on the conversation this morning. Just please be mindful of the time of your contribution and also kindly mute your television when making your contribution. We have a caller on the line with us from Pitty Valley. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sean and Keaton and the officer there.
Good morning.
Sean and Keaton, I do not think the government is deliberately not resourcing the DPP or the judiciary. And I will tell you why. It don't make any sense, because the same government who is bringing this high-profile case against the Piaco Airport, Mr. Ramdeen and them, and I will think the government will like to have a conviction in these cases. It will, to me, politically, it will make the government look good to the citizens like they're doing things in white-collar crime, they'll get credit about it. So to say that they will deliberately resource in the DPP office, it doesn't make no sense to me.
Nicola, can I ask you a question?
Just
Sure,
the government is giving the DPP, government give the DPP what they want. They want a new building, they got it. They want bulletproof, they want their windows bulletproof, they got it. They got some staff on the prosecution side, but they can't get everything. Customs is short, immigration is short, the police service is short. I could go on and on in this country where they're short staff. What they have to do is manage themselves. That is the problem. What you have to say, Keaton?
Very quickly. If the government, if the Prime Minister is now saying that they've basically wasted $45 million in 3 years for rent and all that, shouldn't the Prime Minister have addressed this 3 years ago to not only save us $45 million, but on top of that, what about the staffing of the DPP? Why hasn't the Prime Minister, if he's brought forward these cases, this government, over the Piarco cases, and it takes 20 plus years to get it heard, why did he not address the issue of the staffing, but chose to address the issue of $45 million?
We have another caller,
but the government can't say how long a case will take. The government can't say how long a case will take.
Part of the reason why cases take so long is because if I have 2 cases scheduled for the same day, obviously one is going to have to be put on a later date because there's only one of me. There's what, less than 50 prosecutors? So
yeah, but what I'm saying, I just mentioned a lot of places. I just listed out a lot of places were short. You have to manage with what you have.
No, I agree with you, which is why I think the $45 million
you can't
in
get
rent.
100%. The police service could say that.
Yeah, but
immigration could say that.
Not all situations are equal.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Are equal.
Have a very good day. We have a caller line with us from Diggle Martin. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Shah and Mr. Small, and to the superintendent. Superintendent, I don't have no issue with you today, but I have an issue somewhere down the road tomorrow. I'll just Mr. Shah and Mr. Small, I want to expand the discussion about resources for the DPP, and by extension, I want to respond to that question raised by the earlier caller. There's a term for that, allocation of scarce resources. That is one of the basic fundamental of code management. Okay. 2 issues have been raised in the space, national space, and both of them were opposition members, Ms. MP Munial and the Honorable Kamara Rasad. MP Munial addressed the issue of the silence of the TTTI, and the TTI responded immediately and said, no. But there is a nexus, and I'm going to show you all the nexus. 3 high-profile people in the TTI. One is a commissioner in Jamaica, the one in the EBC now, and I'm trying to remember the other one. I can't get it out. But there's a tight nexus. It might be real or imagined. The other one I want to talk about, Kamala Bissessar raised the issue of persecution and prosecution. And I'm going back to the Sachama issue, and I'm going back to
very
the
quickly,
issue. If you look at the prosecutors, you look at the DPP, you look at the AG at that point in time, and you look at the counsel who was on the Muster report, Mr. Chief Magistrate McNichol has gone. Those are the same 3 players, 4 players, continue to be in the space of the judicial system. They are in this directly impact on the leadership of the LATT. Why has the LATT been silent on a number of key issues? And I'm going to raise 3.
Caller, no, sorry. I apologize, caller. We have other callers on the line. We have to give them an opportunity. But we hear your point, and thank you very much. Have a good day. I do apologize to having to cut you, caller, and it's not just you. It's going to be other callers as well. But we can't take up so much time.
Yeah.
We want to give everybody an opportunity. Caller on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
What I would like, I'm not going to contribute because we said enough about this DPP and we know what's happening. Who don't want to see then something is wrong. I would like to see, on this matter, I would like to see former members of the DPP office come out and make a joint statement and put some pressure on the government to get this thing right. I would like to see former DPP Mark Mohammed, Jeffrey Henderson, for example, Anthony Carmona. Even though two of them are still judges, they can come out together and make a joint statement just in support of Roger Gaspard, because something has to give in this situation. I listened to the Minister of National Security yesterday on a radio program gaslighting the DPP office, which is wrong.
Yes.
On that all I have to say on that issue. On the issue of the school violence, it seems to be an issue, and I would agree that this thing starts in the home, you know. This thing starts in the home, and parents are not doing enough. I had a situation not too long ago when one of my daughters was going secondary school, and the same fight issue, and believe it or not, this was among she and two other girls that were in class together from primary school.
Imagine that.
I don't know if something is happening when they start to go through puberty, these girls, that this aggression thing starts up, because these are three children I'm telling you about that came from that are from good homes, that going to church and that type of thing, and they were friends, and something started to change when they reached in that secondary school. So these are things that parents have to look at, that parents have a bigger responsibility, seeing that now they don't have enough. You can't throw everything on the police and on the school system and the teachers.
All right, cool.
One more thing, gentlemen, quickly, if you allow me.
Very, very quickly.
Yes, PRD, the last time you were on the station, I asked a question and Sean tried to clarify, so I'm going to ask it again to you. A little more clarity today. Is there a business in the criminal underworld in Trinidad and Tobago of murder for hire, where people can go and hire somebody just to... I'm not talking about inter-gang violence and have a hitman in a gang. Is there that business of murder for hire starting to blossom in Trinidad and Tobago? Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. Now, we will go to acting ASB in a moment. We have this call on the line from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen, and to Mr. Shan, Mr. Small, and Mr. Small, I want to apologize for calling you Keaton some time ago in the past, talking to Miss Karen. I know that a man name in any language is the sweetest song in his ears. So, you know, I made a mistake really, and palm it off into a joke, but I want to apologize.
That's okay, caller. I forgive you.
It's fine. I want to say that... Yes, also you, sir.
I think even Keaton made that mistake once, famously.
And, you know, and I want to say again that I make the call the first time. You all are so awesome in your presentation and everything. You all are the real station of the nation, the way you all, you know, carry yourself as the standard of presenters from the past. You know, they talk about bringing back TTT and so on, but you all are the real deal. I also want to say that, you know, when I was going to school in the 70s, they had a lot of violence in school, a lot of fighting, and there was a teacher like to beat plenty. And unfortunately, two students had a fight with him and beat him, right? And but he was a guy that he loved to beat. And I never stay away from a class yet. And the fear this teacher put in me, when I now started to go secondary school, would you believe I break that period and stay in the toilet because of the fear of the licks?
Wow.
But I also want to say, my parents used to beat me. If they tell me something 3-4 times and I didn't listen, I would get a flogging. Now, when you flog children, people believe that when you talk about flogging in school, most people goes to the extreme, but this is the real brutal licks we're speaking about. Yeah. And no, you speak to them 3-4 times and you give them a tin cane, 4 lashes on the calves or in the palm of the hand. It sometimes curb violence among children, escalating because they know that they're gonna be disciplined if they are given trouble. They've been cautioned several times, and you do it in a moderate way. Also, in the 70s, the police used to hustle children off the road, get them to the buses in PTSD, and all these things were happening in the 70s. I don't know if people forget, but I want to remind people, right? I want to remind people, and the police, I think you all are doing a wonderful job now, that you need to assist, because there are a lot of single parents on the street and all these things, and and the teachers have the part to do. We want our students to be bright and get properly educated. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, caller. Sorry, but we're gonna have to end it there because we have another caller waiting from Dabadi. So apologies for that, but we do need to give the next caller a chance. Good morning, caller from Dabadi.
Pleasant morning. I'll try to be very clear and concise in my point this morning. First is a question: what is the definition of a child? Because somehow I'm hearing from you all in secondary school, those people who are involved in criminal violence as children, some of them are over the age of 16, so I would like to hear the definition of a child. Some of them are charged with pushing marijuana, possession of firearm, and this kind of thing. I don't understand how you all could call them a child. Right? The second point is ASP Ashraf, wonderful job you all are doing. I have made it a concerted effort to bring about solutions on this program. So I don't know if your seniors listen to this program. Is it hard for the police to assign 2 officers, foot patrol, and do school crossing and school lecturing, ASP Ashraf? Those are fundamentals of community policing. So I'm not saying to drive around in a vehicle and just watch what's going on. I said to do school crossing, and school crossing is not just to see children cross the school, They are out there for many other reasons. And also to take lectures to schools. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Again, just putting a pause on acting ASP Ashraf Ali. He will respond, though. We will give him an opportunity to respond to all the questions. We take this caller from Shigonis. Good morning, caller.
Good day, gentlemen.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
I'm sure you're talking about the behavior.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, about school children. And when I look back at my youth, the models that parents put to their children was the schoolmasters, the headmasters. And that, in my opinion, had a significant effect on the behavior of the children. Unfortunately, today, the people that we look forward to is our politicians. And that, in my opinion, is the cause of the problem. Because when you look at the politicians, none of them do the work. And the children follow. I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Just that I agree with you, because once they put the former Minister of Education was also the former principal of my school, and when they did that, I think, it was very difficult to look up to that example as something worth emulating. And I'll just leave it there. So you're quite right, Professor.
Thank you very much. My only response is that I think we, as a nation, as a society, we need to be, very much careful and very much confident and conscious of who we choose as role models. This is going to be the final call, because I want to give Acting ASP Ashraf Ali enough time to respond. So we'll close the phone lines a bit earlier than usual. Good morning, caller from Cascade.
Good morning, people.
Good morning.
Good morning, ASP Ali.
Morning, sir.
I noted with interest the concerns expressed by an earlier caller about the return to corporal punishment in schools. and I know it runs against all the international norms now to encourage corporal punishment. But as you know, former criminal lawyer Vernon DeLima, senior counsel, who now resides in Florida, he has recently written a book called Closing Address, in which he dealt with a lot of his own life as a barrister. And one of the points he has highlighted in his book is the issue of corporal punishment, particularly the cat o' nine tail for prisoners. And he talked about how prisoners feared the cat o' nine tail, how if the magistrate or the judge said you were to get 10 strokes with the cat o' nine tail, you will get a quarter, a 1/3 when you enter. Midway during your term, you will get the other 1/3. And just before you left the prison, your sentence ended, you would get the last third. It worked according to Mr. DeLima, and he would know because he often counseled with hardcore criminals in this country. Perhaps Mr. DeLima has a point. We need to go back to the cat o' nine tail, and perhaps we need to give the schools the authority to administer corporal punishment, as it were, from the cradle, so that young Turks, when they come to school, they will know that they have to remain in line. What is happening now? There is no fear, there is no law, and there is no order, and it is now in the schools. I ask for us to have law and order by any means necessary.
All right, Cole. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Acting ASP Ashraf Ali, there are quite a number of questions. The one from the caller from San Fernando with respect to hire to kill. You know, we have this caller from Dabity who was speaking. We have this caller from St. James who spoke very much about policing in the 70s and involvement within the schools.
Yeah.
I mean, the time is yours, sir.
Right. So, with respect to the caller with hire to kill, once there are criminal elements in any society, there is a possibilities of persons who doing those type of acts. So coming out and say that we know it will come out in a negative light, right? Because there are the possibilities. So I am saying to that caller, I cannot confirm or deny it does in fact happen, but understanding criminal activities and criminal organizations, right? There are those type of elements instilled in it.
But is there like a specific, not a drug running gang, but a we will take murder gang?
And like I said, once you have criminal elements and criminal activities and criminal organizations, there will always be those type of elements embedded within it.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Is there any police intelligence to suggest that there are individuals out there who may not be a part of a criminal gang, and as the caller from San Fernando pointed out, may not necessarily be a hitman for a gang, but is there any police intelligence to suggest?
We have information that suggests that in certain gangs, there are what we call the shooters, persons who do the shooting, right? But the more critical one is that what the caller from in the east was talking about Dabity, talking about the schools and the type of school policing that is required. Now, he speaks specifically to that area, and that is exactly what our community policing aspect is. The challenge we continue to face is that the resources that are required to continue maintaining that is challenging. So because of the fact that community policing officers, it's units within the divisions, and when you have schools, when you have a number of schools that are considered to be high risk and have have violent activities, and right, you'll have to maintain that level of policing within those schools. So we do it, we do it, but not to the extent that I believe that some of the callers expecting us to do it. So we have officers from the community who go in schools and do lectures. We have officers who do patrols, periodical patrols based on the time frame that when the school finish, right? But when you look at how everything folds. You don't necessarily get the confrontations taking place when you leave the school. At the maxi taxi hubs, leading towards the other areas, they may have it. They just pop up in these cities where schools meet each other, and then you have a confrontation. So it happens throughout the area. So that's just one aspect of it. You have to have some level of conversation, some level of interaction, right? And there's only so much the police can do.
Now, part of it is, yes, this will help deal with crime down the road, right? I understand that. And there might be some overlap. If I'm patrolling high traffic areas for public transport, then both school children and other citizens will be within the presence of officers. But, I've said this before, but I will ask again. The TTPS just came off of Carnival where admin people were pulled to go on the road to ensure that they had enough of a presence during the Carnival season. Personnel-wise, and from COVID until now, I've had this concern. Is the TTPS personnel being stretched too thin?
And I would say yes. We are, in fact, being pulled apart on all different areas, right? One of the caller mentioned allocation of scarce resources. Yeah. That is what we are doing right now. And kudos to the commissioner, the acting commissioner, and the executive of the police service, that we have been trying to relocate our scarce resources to treat with all these situations that is popping up, that adds to the policing of Trinidad and Tobago and adds to the level of violence that is reflective now on our murder rate, on our crime situation. So the little that we have, we are pulling it apart, utilizing it in the best that we can in these circumstances. But there are other persons need to step up to the plate, right? And I don't want to call out the organizations, but the organization know themselves that also have a part to play with respect to children in the school environment, from the home all the way throughout the school system, because the society, once a child reach the age of 18, and according to the law, between 16 and 18, it's a young adult, right? And for the caller who mentioned what is a child, legal child, and what you consider a child could be 18 years and you still my child, that the parent consider you to be a child. So I will not debate.
Child could be 40 years.
Yes, I don't want to debate child in the context of how somebody look at a child. When I refer to child, it's children in school, right? And whether they are young adults or otherwise, they are somebody else's children, and we consider them a child. And the level of violence we are seeing coming out of schools, emanating in schools, right? Are we waiting for when it reach primary school or any kindergarten environment?
This is something
and we've seen younger, not 16, commit acts of violence, serious violence, murder. So,
well, anyway, Acting SB Ashraf Ali, thank you very much once more for joining us on the program. I wish we had more time because we would like to expand further, but there's always next week. So
yes, there's always next week, and unfortunately, school violence is not leaving us at any time shortly.
Well, as you said, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. So this situation, as it pops its nasty head again, it's something that we have to be treating again with, and it's over and over. And societies tend to, once it's not a burning issue,
we forget about it.
Nobody listens about it again.
Yes, well, Sean Michael Small, sorry, go ahead.
Just want to say, I don't understand why we have so much scarce resources. We had a $1 billion budget surplus. I'm just saying, we had a surplus.
Come on.
Why it's scarce?
Come on.
Human resource, sir.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all the viewers for their contribution and their course this morning, and to our directors. I'm Keaton Shaw. This has been Talking Point. And remember, today is a good day to have a good day. Should things go good, and we hope they do, we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.